to episode 13 of Summoning Insight. This is now an officially Riot-sanctioned broadcast. You might wonder by my attire, I was actually just at the rehabilitation facility, anti-toxicity facility that Riot have set up. I was very well behaved. I graduated with top marks. Incarnation got kept back again for another year. I hope he gets through this time. Nuke Doc didn't even attend the classes for some reason. I think a letter has been sent home to his parents with a fine. So yeah, welcome to a new era of the show. All things are possible through our Lord Jesus, and I'd like everyone to know that as we start the show now. We will never again criticize anything, because that would be unsportsmanship, and I feel like in a brave new world that Riot's trying to establish, called esports, apparently. I didn't know much about it, but we had this really good teacher in the class. He kind of looked like Seth MacFarlane, and he told me some great wisdom. He said, "Listen, boy, when you've been in esports for 3 months, like I have, then you'll know what this business is all about." And I fucked that shit, obviously. So many insight. I'm back. Monty's back. We're going to figure out a way to do this show so it's still the same show. You have to realise 99% of the show we ever did, Monty, was like talk about players, analyse the games, criticise players, say who was really good, right?
But it was actually, we were told, 50%, up to 50% bashing.
Oh, well, no, there was another fellow who apparently owns an American team who said it's 100% negative. There's nothing positive in the show whatsoever. The weird thing is as well, I saw a guy who looked just like him saying all these wonderful compliments about the Korean mid laner Dade shortly before the Season 3 World Championship. He repeatedly complimented the fellow, said he looked forward to playing him on an even field of battle, and that he actually thought highly of his skills. I mean, I could never believe something like that in an unprofessional manner would ever have dissed someone, you know. I believe diss is the term they're using on the streets now, you know. In the rehabilitation facility, they told me it was called rampant toxicity that actually is ruining the world. In fact, they even had a lecture called THOOORIN is the reason why esports will never become mainstream. It's a topic I've heard often spoken about, but I never really looked in depth on it. It turns out they're right. They even mathematically proved it, you know. Like, so it was like QED. They are correct.
So before we go into the dig period, I have to set the scene for Monty here, because now Monty, it seems like almost before this show he had a change of heart. He thought like, listen, this team's top of the league. It's going to be hard to wreck him. I'm probably going to have to work my way in there with a bit of be polite, you know, start to get into things. You know, he was hoping you went out to Lord Monty has arrived. I told you all Dignitas would fall, and they have before my mind. So I wanted to set things up. Yeah,
he was all right. He was right about Dignitas from the beginning. Thank you.
Listen, eventually he will be right. Okay, so. What did you think of Coast before, Monty? You must have thought they were a terrible team. Come on, Monty Crystal, the guy who loves great play, rotations, all this. What
Monty wouldn't say that to my face. He wouldn't say Coast was a terrible team to my face, right, Monty?
Coast was a terrible team, motherfucker.
My God. Could we have some elaboration on that? Actually, and by the way, if people want to watch Chinese LPL now, last split, I only became aware of this towards the end in the playoffs. But there's actually like these two people who do casting of the LPL in English again. If you ever remember, like back in the day, Papa Smithy and those guys did it, but then they stopped for a while. You couldn't get English casting as far as I knew. But actually on this site called like Games in Asia, I think it is, .com, they do LPL coverage now. If you just like Games in Asia LPL, you'll find it. And they do it in English, and there's two people who do it. There's one guy's some sort of like generic German guy, no offense to Candy. And then there's like a girl who's actually really good, actually. She has really good knowledge, she has a really good voice for it. And I haven't seen any photos of her yet, so I don't know if she's beautiful or whatever. Like, that hasn't even become a factor yet, but we'll see.
I think LMQ, if they pull their shit together and if they make better calls, they will be a really strong team.
Someone made a motivational poster there, and it has a picture of LMQ at Worlds, and it says, LMQ, pull your shit together. Fnatic Solas. The dream.
No, but, like, they're the same as us, really. Like, let's say they're the same as us 1 month or 2 months ago. Like, they really have problem closing up games, and as soon as they have a lead, they play kinda randomly, or they want to upgrade their lead and try to closing games. They just need to I don't know, to just do better calls probably. But they're for sure, like, I will put them to us like third.
I love the way you described that because it's actually totally accurate. But the vernacular of how you said it, you said like to upgrade your lead. So it's like we're already in the lead. I mean, we could just close the game out and win here.
That's a good.
But why don't we
that's a
upgrade
good
our
phrase.
lead?
I like it.
It's sort of like
Upgrade your lead.
So as an LMQ and Fnatic, okay, they're all like in the 80s. They're wheeling and
You
dealing
have
on
to
Wall
figure out
Street.
the fantasy part.
They're making some money, but they want to make bigger bucks. They want to double down. They want to invest on the big. What's the big deal? They're like Gordon Gekko in Wall Street. Like greed is good. That's like a Fnatic mantra. Like, if you're ahead, get more ahead, man. Just like, well, no, just why not win the game? Just like, yeah, but more ahead. Like, so
That's all that matters, right, Thorin?
yeah. I don't give a fuck about teams that are underdogs winning and the better team are getting beaten up. I love when teams are when you're the king. I think you should dominate the peasants and you should make them pay their fucking tax. And you're the goddamn king. You have the birthright of God. You should rule with an
You gotta
iron
call him
fist.
Lord, right?
Yeah,
You gotta call him
exactly.
Lord.
And they should grovel before you and show pedants. And you should scorch the land if they don't do what you say. So I think Samsung Blue should fucking crush Katie Arrows so hard that fucking Cacao just quits and becomes like a streamer. He becomes like Apdo, and he starts like elo boosting girls and shit. Like he can't even play after the way they dominate his fucking brains. That's what I want to happen. And not
I don't
only
think
that,
it's
Monty.
gonna happen at all, though.
Yeah.
I think it's gonna be a close series.
Here's the reason why. Because I think that you guys over mythologize the fun team. Okay, it's like that girl. She's crazy. She's a lot of fun. She takes you out in the rain. It's crazy times. You're having awesome sex. You're getting going on those weekend getaways. But you have to come back to real life eventually, and you don't marry that girl. She's crazy. You just have fun with her. That's all she is. She's the fun girl. You marry the reliable girl. The girl who's got the brains. She manages the checkbook. She's going to be a good mother of your children. That's who you marry. And as a result, you always go with the reliable team. So Samsung Blue all the way. And I want to see SK2 at Worlds. And that's why I want the reliability. All I want is someone I can rely on. That's all I want.
But see, that's the thing is that we know Samsung Blue, the reliable woman, is going to be there at Worlds already. We can marry her. She can win the World Championship. But I want to have the fling with the crazy girl at Worlds before Samsung
Monty
Blue
wants a girl on
wins.
the side, dude.
Yeah.
This is like his bachelor party. His bachelor party before Worlds.
Because actually, if K goes now and K stomps everyone except the Korean teams, then we can just call a wrap on this shit. We can go like, you know what? Forget about these Western teams. It's over. Fucking broken
The dream
down
is dead.
Bengi and Piglet are like stomping pub noobs' heads. Like that's it. It's game over at that point. If the Afro Moon double lift bot lane can't win against the SKT bot lane, call it a fucking wrap. Call yourselves the best looking fat stripper. You're not that good. It doesn't matter anymore. Take that to the bank, double lift.
Okay.
Put Trinity Force on that one and call it a bad move, motherfucker. Yeah. So anyway, what do you think of that as a general concept? Removing all the offensive shit and just making analysis.
It can be entertaining.
By the way, the whole Odie thing was never that big a deal. Okay, it had to be dealt with, obviously.
Look, I just
because
had
it's
to- I had to
an
create a
owner,
comparison,
but
right.
it's an owner doing stuff. Yeah, it had to be dealt with, but that's in the past now. With that said, I just want to let me just jump in and give one little caveat before we continue. There's always a thing whenever someone says the word cunt who's British. There's always a thing where people post on Reddit like, actually in Britain that's actually perfectly fine to just say all the time. Like everyone does it. Like that is not at all true. Like the Queen does not wake up like, Philip, you cunt, where are you today? And then when a little baby is born and goes and gets like baptized, they're like, what's the little cunt's name? Oh, I bless you in the prayers. Like that doesn't happen. Like it's still really offensive to say. Like you wouldn't say that in front of your grandma. She'd be like, what? Like you only say that when you don't like someone. Yeah, if you were close friends, you might do it, but we're not your friends, guy. We're not your buddy, pal. Like, we'll go to the top line first. Quaz. We pretty much have never talked about Quaz on this show. We might have talked about him once. How this guy must be doing all right, Monty.
He's a strong laner.
He has this really high rep, and I read the backstory that someone posted on Reddit where it said that like in season 3 he'd been like he had like a 70% win rate on all these different champions. And he was playing from 300 ping from like I don't know, Venezuela or some country like that, right? Is that right?
Yeah, Venezuela. Okay. Yeah, it's Venezuela.
So I'm sure retards are going to be like, that's racism, but does he speak 100% fluent English? Is he really good at English?
His English is better than mine.
Well, that doesn't make much sense. Come on, you sound like you come from a trailer, dude. Anyway, aside from that, just an unnecessary shot there. He's not saying it as a very nice drawl. I enjoy it, you know.
I'm from the south, dude.
It's like,
What's
yeah,
up?
man, me Scooty is down on peanut pots. Them old boys. Afro Moon, them boys. Get it.
Alright,
Anyway.
okay, I'm nowhere near that bad.
Okay.
But I got to hear an Englishman's redneck
Yeah, dude, that
accent.
was my version of when you fuckers are like, blimey, mate, do you come from London, mate? And everyone in England's like, that doesn't even sound vaguely anything like
That
you.
sounds about right. Come on now.
And so, listen, in my world, the world of Europe, like, that's fine. You know, you do your work, you do your job, and then afterwards you go and do whatever you want. And, you know, I mean, in France, apparently it's like, okay, to have, like, mistresses or something. Like, I don't know. It's a different culture, Monty. I'm just setting the scene like this, okay? But in Monty's world of NA, of America, where it's, like, professionalism and all this bullshit, like, surrounding everyone, they think so as that every week, like, the second you finish the last game on Friday, you're just, like, into the club, like,
baby.
and then you're just there for like 18 hours, you know, you're just messing around, and then you just turn up like 8 a.m, you walk in the door of the Fnatic house for team practice, like, yeah, I will probably play a few of the solo queue and then I go to sleep, and then you're just like, that's how they think your weekend goes, you know. So when Soaz made Cyanide made that comment in an interview suggesting that people were hungover, was he only talking about himself? Was he just being an idiot? What was he doing? Come on, tell us.
Actually, yes. So
He's just talking about himself?
like, so we went out, right? But we were like, all the people like actually played fine, and the scrims were not too bad. But Sana actually really felt bad about like going out the day before. So yeah, it was more about himself than others.
Okay. So were you mad at him when you saw him make that comment? Because everyone then thought everyone thought like the whole Fnatic team was out in that same club that I was describing before, you know.
Well, I just thought it was a bit stupid, but I make a lot of stupid Twitter posts as well, right? So,
Okay. So,
it's fine.
speaking of which, we get into that. So then Monty, you know, thought to himself, well, I'll reach out to Soaz privately here. He's a good friend of mine. Just check what happened with the situation. Just check that the ground's all level. I've got my footing firmly here. But I don't want to leap in with any incendiary comments here. And so what he did was, the way he privately reached out to Soaz is he opened that box. It looks a bit like the private message box, but sometimes it can actually be the public tweet box. And he was sort of like, you fucking alcoholic French man, why will you not play? Like, you know, what happened, Monty? You essentially told him something like, you know, how can you be dedicated if people are drinking so much and stuff? Did you actually have this perception of Europe, Monty, that people, they party a bit too hard or they're not dedicated to the game? Was it just the Fnatic team from the interview? What do you think?
I mean, I do have that perception about some of the European teams at times, but I just have knowing them. But in that case, in my defense, I had all the information I needed. I had an interview saying somebody was hungover, and then I had somebody saying they were the most dedicated team in Europe, which actually, you know, come to think of it, that is a relative distinction. So maybe all the other European teams are actually more hungover.
Okay.
I had not considered this, actually.
So it's sort of like he's like the most straight-laced.
But, you know what I mean.
you know. Like, that's totally different level of like exertion and mental energy in those 8 hours. So like, Tabs even said this to me. I want you to address this, Soaz. He said he actually had a really big problem getting solo queue practice in. Because after he would practice with Lemon Dogs or whatever, like the 10 hours a day, he didn't want to play for another second that day, you know. He was too burned out already.
But I don't know. Yeah, I just think it's a dream job for them, so they just say that we should like be happy with what we have and shouldn't ask for more, and that's it. That's what they think.
What's funny is that that's the exact analogy I'd use. They're saying, well, this is a dream job for you. Okay, well then stop trying to make it a fucking nightmare for me. Like, stop saying I have to have no benefits in my life. Like, think of it this way. I once made this analogy on a talk show where someone was bringing up that classic question in StarCraft 2, okay, where they said, like, how can the best foreign StarCraft 2 players get as good as the best Koreans? And I actually said, well, they shouldn't want to. Because the way that best Korean guy is so good is he, like, moved to Seoul from out of his house. He lives in a bunk bed. He has to go to sleep at the same time every night, because otherwise you'd get woken up by your teammate coming and getting into the bunk bed. He has to wake up at a set time, have breakfast that's been cooked for him already that he doesn't get to choose, starts practicing, then he has a break off for lunch, which again, he doesn't choose, and then he goes and practices for the rest of the day. Then he goes and plays this tournament. If he loses, people tell him he's shit in his own team. Then he comes home, practices more. Then he has 2 hours of free time each day. Think about that, 2 hours of free time. Except here's the thing. If you're one of the best, the expectation is you will then give up the 2 hours and play extra to prove that you're really dedicated. Then you're thinking, well, you've got the night off now. No, that's bedtime now. 10 o'clock, go to sleep, wake up tomorrow at 6 a.m. And you're thinking, okay, well, that sounds pretty bad. No, that's the best player in the world does that. The best player in the world who wins GSL and hundreds of thousands of dollars, he lives that lifestyle every day. Now, who the fuck watching this show right now dreams of that lifestyle? That sounds like StarCraft prison to me. Like, you're in prison and instead of breaking rocks, you play StarCraft 2. Like, if I'm the best player in StarCraft 2, I want to win the tournament, come home, my beautiful girlfriend sucks my dick, and then I go to sleep in my race car bed, and then I wake up the next morning, my private chef cooks me an omelette, I turn up for a bit of practice, I bang out a few hours here, owning everyone, little bit of theory crafting, you know, I talk to my other girlfriend on the side, who she doesn't know about, but she doesn't need to, I've got her in Monte Carlo, got a nice pimped out little penthouse suite there. I go there for a few weeks, I come back, it's the tournament, I'm all ready, I play the tournament, I come back, next day I wake up again. You see, I'm like, this is the dream. That's the dream. The one I described here is a fucking nightmare. Like, so as if I took you now and took you to like Samsung Blue House, and I was like, hey Acorn, get out, because you look like the devil anyway. Like, let's put, that's a joke obviously, like he doesn't actually look like the devil, that was a contextual whatever. And anyway, so I go, right, so I was hop in his bunk bed, like, you're going to live here and become the best top player in the world. That would fucking suck, right?
I wouldn't fit this lifestyle.
What do you think of the...
Enough about NA. Why are we talking about Coast's roster when we haven't even talked about Loco Doco yet?
Okay,
TSM's
you want to get
coach?
to that? Oh,
yes, I
here's
do.
a comment. Before we get to that, I have to say something first. I'm going to write something about this soon. But whenever people talk about professionalism, okay, professionalism does not mean you don't say things that people don't like. Professionalism means you do your job to the best of your abilities, regardless of how you feel that day, what your personal opinion is on the person you're working with. You just do your job the best you can. So I'm going to tell people some interesting information here. Because of this show, Summoning Insight, and me being the host of it, and me working for On Gamers, so that's the only connection between me, On Gamers, and then Travis, TSM now won't ever do interviews with Travis because I do this show and I am me. Right? What does Travis have to do with me? The fact that he works for the same employer. And because of that, because of Reginald says that we can't have any more interviews for Travis from LCS because of this show and us doing it.
What? When did this happen?
The other day. So this is why I'm going to announce it here, because that is shitty, unprofessional behaviour. So there you go. It's getting called out. And that's something, by the way, I'll put this out there to the industry. There's actually been times in the past, I'm not going to go ham on this topic, but there have been times in the past where someone has blacklisted me personally and said, we won't do interviews with THOOORIN. So all I say to them is, okay, that's your prerogative. You don't have to do interviews with me. But don't make that apply to On Gamers. And so there's a lot of teams, well, there's not a lot of teams, it's only ever happened like 3 times, but the other teams have all said, okay, that's fair enough, like, we'll still let Travis have his interviews. And so if that happens, I never come out publicly and say, like, that team won't do interviews with me. But if that team decides, not only won't they do them with me, but because I just work for the same site, they now won't do them with Travis, that's fucking bullshit, and that is holding esports back, and I will call that out every time now publicly.
Wow,
so
I
you're
totally
on
agree
notice
with you,
every
man.
team. Like, I'm going to put that out there every time it happens.
Wow, so that means we can't get Loco on the show anymore
No, that's
either.
another thing. We can't have Loco Doco on the show ever again because of your good old boy Reggie there. Oh, he's such a good guy. Oh, he seems like he's calmed down a lot now. I wonder why everyone leaves the team because of a bad attitude. That wasn't even his accent. That was like a guy who's an old guy from England talking about Reginald and watch Game Grip or something. He's an ignorant guy. I won't have him on the show again. But no, Loco Doco can't come on the show anymore. Yeah, it's bullshit, right? And by the way, here's the key thing I'm going to make as a point now. You're now thinking, oh, so now you've got beef with Reginald. Now you don't like him. No, no, no. My opinion on Reginald has never changed for like 3 years. If Reginald messaged me now on Skype and said, listen, it's gotten out of control, we haven't talked about this thing, like, let's figure something out, like, maybe we can figure it out so Travis can still have his interviews, okay, Loco can't do on your show anymore, he can't do interviews with you, I'd be like, you know what, that's professionalism, let's work that out, we'll figure it out, you don't have to do interviews with me anymore, just do them with Travis, there we go, we've got a setup that's fine, it all works, Loco can maybe come on once a season or something, you can vet the topics he talks about, no, we can't do any of that, because here's another thing, I'm blacklisted, and Old Gamers is as well, but we're not blacklisted where we've been told by Reginald we are like that. We've been told through like back channels, and I can't even contact Reginald. I can't even talk to him and say professionally what is the status of like me doing interviews. I can't even do that. That's not professionalism. That is acting like a little kid who's using petty biases to override professionalism. Say what's in the best interest of TSM now, what's in the best interest of this player, what's in the best interest of Loco Doco, and if in the best interests is not to go on Summoning Insight, that's absolutely fine, but it's not in their best interests to be banned from someone you would have let them do interviews with because that person is indirectly associated with someone else who's totally different. That's bullshit. That's not professionalism. Buck your fucking ideas up, son, or you're gonna get wrecked on this show.
This just, I don't really get it.
Oh, and the key part, as like I said, let me just reiterate that last part again. The key part of this aspect is it doesn't matter what people's personal feelings are. As a result of this, guess what? I'm not a fan of Reginald. I never really was. But you don't know that unless I tell you it as a person in the audience now. So, for example, if I could, 6 months ago, have done a Reflections with Reginald when I was in NA last, I would have done it. And you wouldn't have known, this person watching now, that I don't like Reginald as a person. You'd have watched the interview, I would have been sympathetic to his perspective so I could tell the story and do the interview and ask him questions. I would have allowed him unlimited time to give his opinion. You notice I never cut people off in my interviews when they're answering. I give them full time, I let them say whatever they want. They can disagree with me. I always give them a chance, because that's professionalism, regardless of what I think. So you can all have your opinion on what professionalism is, but that is ultimate professionalism, because I'm trying to do my job to the best of my ability, regardless of my opinions, you know. And here's another thing. We mentioned this on the other episode. If someone disagrees, they can come on this show and they can wreck us. By the way, if we're so wrong, and these people have all these great points and things, well, what the fuck are we going to say when they say, oh, actually, behind the scenes, this went on that you didn't know about, and actually, this player, we'd be destroyed, we'd look like fools.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, I even think, like, I'll tell you a principle that does work. Any player who comes on a show like this and articulates themselves well will actually win unanimously over me and Monty, no matter even if we were correct. When Loco Doco came on that first episode, people thought what he said was like the fucking gospel. In fact, you see people repeating that stuff about Flame now, that Loco himself recanted like 4 episodes later when he actually met Flame and talked to him. Not because Loco was an idiot and all that, just because if you're a player and you come on and you give your side and you're honest and you explain your reasoning why, people naturally want the pro to be right. They'll side with you. You'll win in this scenario. It's not like we don't get people on this show and just body bag them.
No,
we just want to have Spartan. Okay, but no, in general we don't.
But no, it's I don't know. I think we're very reasonable. We're happy to have people on the show as guests. We just want to ask questions and have a dialogue about the game and the scene. And we're not here to attack people or anything like that. We're here to break down the conceptions that people have and really like dig into what the status of the pro scene is, what the performance of teams are, what is going on behind the scenes. And I don't know. I think it's very ridiculous.
Anyway, before I got all excited there, I got a bit flustered, I started giving analogies, started going in on stuff. We were actually having a show and there was this guy on the show who I just remembered he's in this right-hand box here. It's called Candy Panda. He loves Reginald, by the way. If he ever gets a chance to be on TSM, he's right there. He thinks he's a great man, motivational leader. Again, possible father figure. See the way I talk to him, huh? You know. He's Caesar. If this was Planet of the Apes, he's Caesar.
Wow.
I had to go there, whatever. You know how I do that shit.
Wow.
But again, I would allow Caesar to come on and say, get your hands off me, you filthy dirty ape, if he said that to me. But he probably wouldn't. Anyway,